This was my favorite part of our recent Breaking Down Reserve Expenses webinar. In many other webinars, we've talked about components, but always illustrating with a very simplified component list. Not this time. In this portion of the program, I was able to walk our attendees line by line through 3 actual component lists for a townhome, a mid-rise condo, and a high-rise. There was a lot to show, but you'll see that by following National Reserve Study standards, a project manager is guided through making many decisions that identify many different types of projects. And it's all with the goal of creating a component list that allows you time to prepare financially for all these projects so you're not stuck with a leaky roof that you can't pay for. All right. Well, this is my favorite part of the program. It's where I spent, I think, the most time preparing, and it's where I could spend way too much time telling you some stories and showing you the nuances, but I want to spend some time talking about actual component lists and telling you how it might look like at your association based on what you can see from other associations. Now, for the 60-some% of you who've attended some of our prior webinars, you've probably seen this slide before. It's our overview of what a reserve component list looks like. And it's a nice primer. It helps us show how its useful life, remaining useful life replacement cost. It's how we show that reserve components are projects. They're not things. Like for asphalt, you can see it's both the seal and the resurface. They're different projects. And this helps you kind of see the big picture. But what I want to do today is use our UPlanet tool to show you 3 different reserve component lists. It's the online tool that comes free with your completed reserve study from Association Reserves. It allows you to get your fingers in and actually touch and see the reserve study electronically. And let me see if I can get that turned on, and I believe you are seeing it now. So when you go to reservestudy.com and log into what we call our Client Center, this is what you'll see from a point of view of a portfolio manager. All right, and let me pick one to start with. Start simple. Let's talk about the Sample Townhome Association. This is where you'll see the completed reserve study. You have an ability to add more people to the access profile, and then you get to UPlanet itself. And UPlanet is kind of a tab-based application. The component list is first. You get to the control panel where you get to set your starting balance and interest and inflation assumptions, recommendation where you can adjust the reserve funding plan. You can do some custom things, but that's really not what I want to talk about here. But what I want to show you is, and then obviously a lot of things you can print, tables and charts, but this Townhome Association has a few years of kind of light expenses before they get to big expenses. And this is going to be your profile. This is what you as a board member need to understand. You as a manager need to understand what's the nuances, what's the characteristics of this association. So let's dive right into the components. Now, some of the things I want to show you is that in many, if not most reserve studies, the reserve study provider identifies a lot more components than are funded. In particular, I can show you here, the gray components are those that are inappropriate for reserve funding. We've identified them. We've told you we haven't forgotten about them. We just have decided, and you can look into the notes in the reserve study to find out that concrete walkways, this is an operational maintenance issue. But let's see, some things to point out. Tile decking, 35-year life. That's above 30 years. It's really insignificant. It's a nice, stable component. Other things are 15 years, 30, 25, 20. You can see that metal fence is another arguably long life component. This is a 400 some feet. It should be a pool perimeter. One of the reasons we think of the last 40 years is they are painting it very regularly. So if you care for it, you can get a nice long life on an expensive component. And I want to show you some wisdom here. Setting the painting cycle up to be the same for metal fencework painting and wood fence painting. That's a nice thing to be able to do, so it keeps your costs down when you're able to hire one painter to do 2 things. And as long as I'm here, a couple things to show you. A greenscape. landscaping refurbished every 15 years. This could be the entry plants. This could be the hedge along the roadway, and then tree trimming. We learn this stuff from speaking to your landscape company or your arborist and finding out what's the appropriate tree care cycle and being able to find a good number that fits into the budget. So it doesn't have to be something that you can buy at a store. It's what's necessary, the projects that are necessary at your association. Okay. And we go on down here and find a few more things. Yes, we call this logical cycling, where we're painting the wood every 5 years and the building every 10. So every other time you paint the wood trim, you get to paint the building exteriors. And then the roof inspection. This is one of those projects, I believe at this association, the threshold of significance was $1,000. So this being a project expected over $1,000, wanted to pay this from reserve. So this is one check once a year. They pay the roofer to do a significant preventive maintenance walkthrough of the property. And then pool area. This is one of those things, maybe a gray area. Could be on the verge of an operational project, probably especially if they, in a year or two, replace one of the 6 pieces or a couple of the 6 pieces. Then all of a sudden this may drop into something that's handled through the operational maintenance budget. Okay, kind of getting the feel of things here. Let's go back and let's pick another one. Let's pick the Sample Condo Association. Same thing here. Reserve study, user accounts, you plan it. And let's take a quick peek. Actually, this one has a somewhat similar profile. A few expenses in the next few years, something big in 10-ish years. And let's see what those are all about. Again, the trivial sidewalk repair thing done operating budget, a large pool deck expense, both the useful life and remaining useful life, more than 30 years. Asphalt coordinated seal and resurface project every 5 years. So 3 cycles from now, we'll catch the resurfacing. More coordinated painting. Actually, here's a partial where we have an expectation that they'll replace about 20% of their perimeter metal fencing about every 10 years. So that's not a do all at once. It's an allowance every 10 years. And more logical cycling. And then here's an infrastructure inspection. Cycled every 9 years. So this must be a California property. California has a 9-year requirement for things like this. You can see it's expensive. $42,500 is the estimated cost. So a big deal for them to be able to anticipate and have a big chunk of cash ready to make this happen. Building interiors, coordinating the interior lights with the flooring, with the carpet on the 5s and 10s and 20s. Balcony deck maintenance, likely something they learned that they need to do after spending the money on that recent infrastructure inspection, doing a better job of the preventive maintenance so that the big projects work well together. And let's see, wood surface repainting every 5 years and doing siding repairs at that same time. So partial siding repairs right before you do the wood painting. Makes perfect sense. You can see that the painting is $30-some thousand and the repairs are going to be $30-some thousand. And another example that we're talking about projects here. My recollection is this was a place with 6 buildings. So we're doing 4 of the buildings on this cycle and the last 2 buildings a year later. So phase 1 and phase 2 of the roofing and phase 1 and phase 2 of the gutters. So you don't have to do the entire thing at once. You can see what's appropriate. And then I just thought of one more thing. Balcony decks. Most associations, balcony decks are limited common areas. You and I go out on our own balcony, balcony 501C, okay? That's our balcony. No one else goes on our balcony. but it is indeed common area, and so the association is responsible for it. So limited common areas appear in the reserve study. I'm going to take another couple minutes to show you a high-rise. Same thing. And let's take a look. And you can see a different blend of expenses through the years. Big cluster around the 15 years point in time. But we talk about components, perimeter planting, so more greenscape every other year. Minor tennis court stuff is done operational budget, but that chain link perimeter fence, 40-year useful life, appears in the reserve study. And let's see what some other interesting things. Coordinating roofing projects. Windows, another preventive maintenance project, an annual project. They're doing window repairing and sealing, $30,000. Boy, this board must be glad that the money is set aside so they're not having to shake the or ruin the miscellaneous budget in the operating account for a $30,000 expense. And let's look for a couple more things. Balcony inspection, same kind of thing. Big expense, limited common area. Infrastructure inspection, $82,000. And it's expensive to look after your building and anticipate and find the things. But these kind of inspections save hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's a great thing to do. Building interior, lobby upgrades cycled together. Hallways phased out. 5 floors, 5 floors, 5 floors, 6 floors, 6 floors, all with slightly separate years. What more? Exercise equipment every other year, cycled with the refurbishing. And we get to mechanical systems, electrical generator, a 50-year life on the generator. Boilers. Oh, here's an example of what we call a overlapping cycle. Something needs to be done every 20 years. Overhaul it at the 27-year point, replace it at the 7-year point. So something is happening every 20 years, overall 40-year cycle. So a lot of different kinds of things going on, but all those custom uniquenesses based on what's happening at this association, and you run it through that same 4-part test. Let's get back to the PowerPoint here. Okay, so yes, UPlanet is how I was able to show you that, and that comes free with every Association Reserves professional reserve study. At Association Reserves, we make the present less stressful and the future more secure. If you want to join us in this mission, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Leave a comment down below on what you'd like to see us address in a future video. Let's plan for your best future.